If Jim Ratcliffe was an Oluwajimi or Muhammad Abdullah or anything, or a bit darker, the tone of skin was a bit of a darker hue, what would be the feedback? What would be the noises? What would be the narrative of what he has done since him and his group have taken over the institution that is Manchester United? Alarm bells should have been ringing as soon as he was willing in the bidding process to team up with the Glazers. Now, the Glazers have to remain the focus of conversation. They have to remain in the discourse. What they've done to this club 20 years after, in 2005, if anybody said in 20 years' time, this club, the biggest club in the world, the richest club in the world, the club that was always innovating, the club always challenging for the league title, Champions Leagues, if anyone had said in 20 years' time, that club would be sitting in the bottom half of the table, closer to the relegation zone than even top four. Haven't won the league in a decade and were in £1 billion of debt. If anyone would have said that, people would have said that person needs to go to a mental asylum. But here we are 20 years later. 14th or 15th in the league. I don't even know. It's that bad. I don't even look at the league table anymore. And we're in January, deep into the season, that low in the table. Usually we started off that low based on alphabetical order. That's my experience growing up being a United fan. But the last couple of years, that's how low we've been. On the field, on the pitch. Behind the scenes, Ratcliffe has made 25% of staff redundant. 25% of staff have been made redundant, like I said. They've cut funding for charities. They've cut funding for foundation groups, disabled groups. They've tried, and I don't know if they succeeded, in cutting the funding for the families of the Busby babes. These people literally are descendants of those that literally gave their lives for this club. The tradition, the folklore, the legends that came from the Munich air crash is largely what built this club now. That's the legacy of the Busby babes. Matt Busby bringing in his philosophy, those guys dying for this club, Matt Busby rebuilding the club, and that tradition of youth, overcoming and triumph, overcoming disaster, resurrection, that belief as what was passed on through Sir Alex Ferguson and is now ingrained into the folklore of this club. Ratcliffe, like I said, those direct descendants and those family members have been disrespected as well. Now, talking about Sir Alex Ferguson, in my opinion, he should be looked after until his dying day. Any payment made to him post-retirement, in my opinion, should be maintained. He rebuilt this club into the powerhouse, the world powerhouse, the leading football institution. He built us into that. His salary was cut. His ceremonial position, which he didn't do much day to day, let's be real, but what he gave to this club, he earned that position. So when you consider all things in the 12, 13 months since the deal was done, and 11 months since it was ratified and officially Ratcliffe and Ineos came into United, I just feel like the marginal gains they're trying to get have cost the club in terms of mood, in terms of general feeling. It has cost the club a lot more than any gains they were looking to achieve. I mean, cutting Sir Alex Ferguson's £2 million a year, raising ticket prices to the astronomical amount that you want to, it feels like what they're trying to gain, which in mathematical terms and financial terms, they lost it all in sacking Ten Hag too late, let's say. That cost them about £12-15 million. What they've saved in all those little cost cuttings has been about the same amount. So really, they've taken it out. Their bad decision has been paid for by the little man, so to speak. Those disabled fans, those charities, those foundations, us fans, the staff, Christmas bonuses being reduced and made into M&S vouchers, no Christmas parties, things like that, that add up to the week's salary of Harry Maguire, let's say, or Mason Mount. I mean, it just strikes me as you're doing a lot to save pennies, but what you're doing will cost you a lot more in ill will, bad PR, and the overall mood at Old Trafford and Carrington around the Manchester United Football Club. What would that be like? Let's just say you're a staff member, you're going into work. You're worried about your own job security. You've had colleagues be made redundant. No Christmas party. I forgot travel to the FA Cup final was taken away. Maybe they had too many perks. Even if you're taking that kind of side of things, you're still not going to be feeling good going into work every single day because you feel like the new ownership is out to get you. So, okay, you're not feeling good going into work. Your salary's not great. Bonuses have been taken away. Colleagues have been made redundant or gone. And then you're seeing millionaire footballers strolling around. You know, you may or may not get on with some of them, but they're doing badly on the pitch now. And maybe it rubs off on each other. Staff comes into work around the place, they're not feeling great, the mood's just a bit low. That kind of energy will rub off on the players. Players might not be feeling so great. They might feel an overburdening sense of guilt to the staff because they know, oh my gosh, these lot, times are rough for them. They might be on eggshells now. So they might not be performing to their optimum ability in training and around the place. And then that filters onto the pitch and the results go bad. And then now the staff are now feeling away, my job's at risk and you lot are doing that on the pitch. And it's just like a spiral, a cycle of just negativity and just a low energy and, negativity, just to sum it up. And I feel like that's all been brought in by this Ratcliffe, he came in on the crest of a wave. British media was all backing him. Oh, he's a local lad. Bring the Manchester back into Manchester United. He's from Fellsworth. He was brought up in a council estate. All these things. None of it I know to be true. I haven't done the research, but, either way, he's a long way from Fellsworth now. And God knows how long ago that was. He's in his 70s, so he probably left ends or whatever 40, 50 years ago, maybe 60 years ago, who knows. But he's shown that he's very far removed from understanding the people and real supporters. He made mention of if Fulham's ticket prices are X amount, why aren't Man United matching that? As if he doesn't know what the average household or the average house in Fulham costs in comparison to an average house in Salford, for example. He's very far removed from what's happening. For him to just disregard, or for them to bring in a lot of the change that they've brought in and haven't consulted anybody, haven't even made statements or let people know when these things have come. These things have only been revealed when journalists have done the research. So it feels like they're being a bit sneaky as well. Then to top it off, making all this noise about a new stadium and so on, but having no plan in place to pay for it. I think people are going to be in for a rude awakening when, these guys start revealing what their plans are regarding that stadium, because I have a strong suspicion that the fans are going to be the ones paying for it somehow. Ratcliffe, he's demonstrated, regardless of his personal wealth, he's demonstrated he's not willing to really put his money in his pocket. Beyond buying the club, he wants the club to be self-sustaining straight away. And in an ideal world, even in an ideal world, it should be, and it really is. It's just been really badly mismanaged by the Glazers, who are still there, by the way, and still own the majority of the club. So when I say the focus really needs to be on them, they are the ones that have put us into this situation. Ratcliffe now is charged with trying to get us out of this situation. The Glazers have been smart enough to do a deal where they could hide behind him, and you can see he's happy to take the bullets. He doesn't care. But then he's also shown that he doesn't care enough about the club to rescue the club in the short term. Excuse me, guys, apologies. Just see how that goes. Yeah. He doesn't care enough about the club to rescue us in the short term. Give us a little jolt. We know he's got the personal wealth to be able to do that. He's not willing to do it. And he is happier to make us fans, the little people, be the ones to pay for the mistakes of the Glazers. Ultimately, I would like for all of them to be removed. I have a theory as to football ownership and what that should look like, because I don't think football clubs should be allowed to be owned solely by individuals or entities and so on, because for the past, 30 years, and probably before that, but I've been watching for the past 30 years, it's been shown that you can't trust a lot of individuals with football clubs, because they will do damage to them. And football clubs are too important to this country. They're too important as pillars of the community. Clubs were built as, community representatives of working class people. Now, I know that there's a lot of money in football now and it's gone away from that a bit, but at the core of it are the fans. Maybe I'm being a bit romantic, but at the core of it are the fans. If the fans are not taken into more consideration and if the fans are not taken into more consideration and more regard isn't held for the fans, then ultimately you will lose football. We saw what the kind of spectacle it was during COVID, and without fans, vociferous fans in the stadiums, it was a different product, and a product that most of us probably wouldn't have watched if it wasn't for the fact that we were locked up at home. It wasn't the same. Now, we bring in all these broadcast rights, endorsements, sponsorships, kit deals, whatever else, all attracted to football, to English football in particular, because of the product of the Premier League, the atmosphere that it brings. And that's all a byproduct or a result of the fan engagement. Over the years, there's been more distance in between fans and footballers and so on. But also, there's a big gap between owners who used to be maybe a supporter turned businessman, done really well. He's bought his local football club. Now we've got nation states running football clubs. We've got foreign investors running football clubs, or consortiums. Now, in theory, I'm all for globalization and so on. I don't care where the person is from. But obviously, we're in a country that's still very much caring where people are from and demonstrating a lot of xenophobia. When Sheikh Jassim was touted as being interested in buying this club, there was a lot of doubt cast upon him. Straight away, when Ratcliffe went in, even though he was linked to other clubs in the past and claimed allegiance to them by being a season ticket holder and so on, he came in for United and he was given the benefit of the doubt. Now, people can draw their own conclusions as to why one is doubted and one is, you know, turned a blind eye towards, or, you know, given the benefit of that doubt. People can cast their own conclusions. But now the dust has settled. We've been a year into Ratcliffe and Ineos being here. They've gone on a big journey to get a director of football, only to sack him a few months later. They renewed or have went on a big journey to try and get a new manager, ended up keeping the current one, only to sack him a few months later. They've made a lot of noise about a stadium with no way to pay for it because they're not willing to go into their pockets. There's a lot of doubt or a lot of things that they've done that we should really be questioning. And I come back to saying, if Jim Ratcliffe was from the Middle East, God forbid, what if he was from Africa? If he wasn't a British guy, and listen, he doesn't even pay British taxes anymore, guys. He's offshore now. So that's how patriotic he is, right? What would be the conversation? What would be the topic of conversation? How would he be viewed? What would the British media be doing if he wasn't this born British? Because he's got a lot to answer for. I mean, like I said, the alarm bell should have been ringing as soon as he was willing to do a deal that allowed the Glazers to stay. Because the reality is that they had no way of continuing to run the club because they'd run us so much into the ground that the only way to take us, even keep us on a level playing field, or a level plane rather, was for them to put money into their own pockets. Now, we know they're not going to do that. So they needed that investment. But if they didn't get investment, they would have been forced to sell. If all the buyers, all the bidders came in and said, no, we only want 100%, they would have had to sell to someone. But then this Jim Ratcliffe said, no, I'll take a minority share just to be a part, and I'll allow you guys to stay. And the guys that have directly put us into this problem are still there. And we've got to also remember, which never gets covered, they've done nothing in business. The one that did something in business was Malcolm Glazer. He's had 6 children who have inherited this. They paid zero for it. Their dad didn't even pay full price for it, leverage takeover and that. But when he passed, the 6 of them inherited it. They've done nothing in business. Nothing in business. They inherited our club and they've done their best to destroy it through sheer negligence, bad business and poor ownership and greed. And then this guy came in and enabled them to stay. He enabled them to stay, and he's doing extreme cost-cutting measures to try and make up what he thinks will make us be a more self-sustaining club. But like I said, those cuts seem to be doing more damage than any benefit So it's a tough time for United. In 2005, the biggest club in the world, richest club in the world. 2025, 14th, 15th place in the league. Sacking managers every couple of years. A stadium falling apart. And £1 billion in debt.